So in the session before this about RDI and TDOMS, we had Wim explaining a bit about Gravity, and that it's not only there for, let's say, a help desk or a software change management workflow. Let me show you. Yes, just to remind you, if you have questions, just put them in the chat box and they will be answered either during this session or afterwards, depending on how much time we have. And we will make the recording available on our website. It's a bit small, but hopefully you can read it. What I want to do with you is look at a workflow that I have created based on the information Wim showed earlier about the leave or absence workflow and application. Wim showed you a very simple workflow. I did some enhancements on that and added some information. And my idea here is to show you just how I've done the definition. I set it up and give you a short demo on how that then looks in the browser. And so we will have a look at the types, how to extend. We've already talked about extending entities, so I've extended our type with a absence reason, and then how you can set it up in the roles, in the groups. So let me first go to the definition. And the definition is done from within the Gravity Rich client. We have a separate administrator client for maintaining these definitions. People working with the Gravity product can do that either from the browser, or they can, if they have, for instance, RDI, install the workflow plugins into RDI, so you have one in for using both Gravity, TDOMS, RDI, and X-Analysis if you have that all installed. So first I want to show you is something about the definitions. How did we create this application? What I've did, I extended our types, and I've added a item called absence. My icon says I'm assuming people report sick a lot of time and not for vacation, but of course you can use it for that reason. I've added this absence type, and I have extended the entity with a reason. And there are basically two ways of working. I could have created a separate entity called absence reason, and then have people add reasons to that, and then people could use that. I could have extended my absence with that other entity, but I have chosen this time to just have a list of reasons why people are not working at a specific period, right? So we have a list here defined. So, and I will also defined next to our help desk workflow, I defined this absence workflow. If I open that one up, then you can see it's not as simple as Wim. I have decided to go for a start, which we call new. Then the user, as soon as he creates the item, is able to say, I will have it going to the waiting approval, or if you're sick, we wait until you return, or if you want to put it in but you're not quite sure yet, you can add it and move it to concept. So as soon as you create it, you have this option to go to either waiting approval or to go to concept. Then if you're sure, you can go to waiting for approval, log it for your manager to check it, or you can decide, no, I'm going to cancel. If you already know upfront it's not going to work, you can go to cancel and close it immediately yourself. Now if you move it to waiting for approval, it is basically handed over to other people and we'll have a look at that later, how you set that up to approve or to decline. Again, instead of the way Wim showed you, I've set up a different way of approving, because if we say it's approved, it immediately goes to the end stage, but if it's declined, it still stays open, giving us the possibility to go back to waiting for approval. So you get a chance to, from the manager, to convince him that you really need that vacation or you're really sick, right? That's how we have set. That's how I have set up my my application. So maybe a bit more information. We have these stages that we've been using. Wim showed you a little bit about events, where you can trigger a event that then can be connected to, for instance, email or a notification or that kind of things, event handlers that will then send out a mail or do anything else that is required. And we are using here, for instance, this change attribute. Means that when we go from one stage to another, and we use this change attribute, and I think this maybe is a good example I can already show you. It enables me to just click here. Let me move it up a little bit so it's easier for you to see. And it says, okay, when we're going from new to waiting for approval, I want to be, I want the realized start date to be actually today's date and time. So as soon as somebody moves it, either from the new to waiting for approval or from the concept to waiting for approval, we will set the realized start date and time to that moment that has been happening. So that's a reason why you can use this change attribute, for instance. So that about the workflow. Of course, we want to make a distinction between, let's say, normal staff. So one thing I did, and of course that's optional, but it's just to give you an idea about what is possible with TDOMS. I have extended my group, so instead of a default group, I also introduced a group staff. So I could say, okay, I maybe want to extend my users that are staff members, for instance, with the department, like Wim showed. Okay, I can give this enhancement and say it's coming from a department. I could also say this person belongs to that department, so you don't have to do that during the enhancement. That's just another way of implementing this. So going to the user admin, what I've done, I've created a few roles. I have assigned a role here which says, okay, everybody belonging to the group approvers will be able to approve absence activity registration items. And if you're not part of that, then you won't be able to do that. Now, who belongs to that group, which is part of my staff? I have added Wim as the one and only basic member for that group. So finally he has a saying what I do in the office, or if I'm going on vacation or not. You can of course add more people to it, because if Wim is sick, then he can't approve that I'm taking vacation, which may be a good idea. Yeah, so that's how I set it up, a different group, and then I set up the authorization in such a way that only people having the role of approving acceptance will be able to move items from these different stages that we saw earlier and move them to the approved and to the, either the declined stage. Let me see if I can show you that if we don't run out of time. I want to be very careful with that. So all this authorization can be done here. So if you look, I've given the approvers all authorization to read all the applications. I could have said, okay, they only need the absence application, but if I go for the stages, which is a bit further here, then they also have a read-write on all the stages, whereas my other users, the ones that are in the user group, do not have that authorization. So this is one way of setting it up. You can also go and assign a specific role to a specific stage. So there are multiple ways of setting this up. Like Wim said earlier, everything lives in an application, right? So I have created next to our help desk, I've created a new application which I called absence or leave, whatever you want to call it, and I have connected the absence item to this application. So that means only if you create an item, an absence item, then it will always be part of this application. If you look at the help desk, like Wim showed you earlier, items here are the enhancement, the issue, and the question. And so by splitting it up, we make sure that absence items only go into the absence application. And then for your information, I have specified, okay, my template for creating an item is that it has to start with a BS and then a number. If you want, you can allow people to fill in their own naming convention or fill in what you want. You don't have to go for the I'm coming from an IBM I, started in 84 on System 36, so I'm used to shortcodes, but if you want to have long names there, it's possible as well. Okay, let me see what I can show you about this application, because within the application I have defined the workflow. Oh, let me look at my own screen. And then within this workflow I said, okay, for the standard workflow we have set up, and you can already say I want to, for instance, set the actual start date, and then it's replicated to anything you create within the application. But you can also say I want on this specific workflow to fine-tune the standard definition, right? So I can go and I can say my base attribute, for instance, if it's approved, I want TDO or the Gravity workflow to give it the status verified, and if it's declined, then I want Gravity to give it a status of unconfirmed. So you have a number of statuses you can use, and depending on how you agree to it in your organization, they have a specific meaning for you. If you say it's cancelled, right? I mean, in the end, on the top, you can set the realized end date, and all that kind of attributes can be controlled from within here as well. If we go, for instance, to the approval stage, then I've said, okay, I want to reassign this object, this item, sorry, to the approvers. So it means that you log this absence request, then when you move it to waiting for approval, it will automatically get assigned to the approvers, and they will be informed that there is an activity for them to do, because they will receive an email saying, here is a new request, go and approve or this request. Okay, let me see. I think I told you everything I wanted to tell you about the definition. I can make this one a bit smaller. Let's just go back one step. Right? Yeah. So I mentioned everything. So the next thing we want to do is give you a small demonstration on if we create a absence request, how that in TDO. in Gravity. Let me see, I have to go to my browser. I prefer to work from the browser. Like I said, you can also use it from work management in RDI, but I prefer the browser. So I will read as Hans. And the idea being is I will log the request as Hans, and then Wim doesn't like it, but I know the password I'm using for this demonstration for Wim, so I can log on as Wim and then approve it. So let me just go. You see here I've created some filters, and the one I've also created is this waiting for approval. I can still see my items. I also have a filter here created by me, so I can see it from there as well. But if I want to subset whatever is waiting for approval, because maybe I have a lot of these items I've created, then with this one I can still see it, although it's no longer assigned to me. So let's create a new work item. See, we now have two applications. One is giving me access to the absence, the other one is giving me access, because I'm authorized to do so, to the enhancements, the issues and the questions. I will go for absence. And then that will show me the login. Maybe you remember Wim's screen, he had many items more, like priority and severity and status. They've all been hidden because I do not have authorization to change them. So I can say, let's say I want vacation. I mean, it's a popular one. Almost today in the Netherlands, the first people of the vacation period starts. So everybody gets that feeling to go on vacation. I want to go ASAP. And then you can see here already we have this extended field, so I can say, okay, what do I really want to do? In this case I want to go on vacation. Wim showed me you can add attachments. Maybe if you're sick you can add an attachment from your doctor saying that you're really sick. Right, so I can just create this absence, registration. Yeah, laat ik nu zien. Yeah, I'll show you that saying, okay, now I have to go here and then. No, first let me show you, because I have to look at my time. Where is my? I have to wait a little bit, I think. There he is. I have to apologize for my PC. It's not as fast as I would want to have it today, but yeah, but so you can see here I can go to concept or I can go through to waiting for approval. Let me just go to concept so you can see the flow working. Click it. Wim is pointing out to me that I could have created extended fields as well for begin date, end date, or whatever you want to call it, because we have a fixed number of dates, but they have a specific name. So like completion date, maybe it's not always wording for that. But so now you can see, okay, when it's in concept, I could go and cancel it, or I could actually go and say it's waiting for approval. Now moving it from my concept to waiting for approval, I get this informational message saying, yeah, it's out of your hands, right? I mean, we can't go anywhere. You're now in the hands of Wim to confirm that it's okay or not. And of course you can create a definition that allows people to take it back. But now we cannot go here anymore, or we can send Wim a comment and say I don't have to send the comment because it's already generated a comment for me when I transferred it. But I could send Wim a comment and say, come on Wim, I need it immediately, and try to put the pressure on him. But you can see here it already created what we call a mini comment. Okay, I have to really hurry up, I'm told. So that we that you can say I want to do it now. So now if I sign out and I log in as Wim, okay. Yeah. Okay, so now Wim can pick this one up, maybe add some comments if he wants to. As you can see, Wim can now move it through the next cycle, and if he declines, he can take it. We can take it back from decline to waiting for approval again. Or if he approves, it immediately goes to the end, because that's the definition we have created, and it's closed. We decide together that I don't want that one to be in the system anymore. We can archive it. I think that's in a very short, brief overview what I wanted to show you, trying to bring across the message that it's not only their gravity welfare change management flows or an help desk flow, but you can use it for different flows as well, and then yeah, basically cover everything in your organization if that's your objective with from a workflow management perspective. Okay, I think we have a poll. And the question is, are you using a high-level workflow for your change management at the moment? Yes, Gravity, or some other tools we may not be aware of. So please go ahead and vote. Votes are coming in rather quickly.
Okay, so there's a question from Steve.
Okay, so
okay. Do you have a VMware version of the Gravity server that can be quickly and easily deployed in an ESXi environment?
Okay, so Wim tells me that there has been a question about VMware implementation for images of Gravity, and yes, there is. We have a cloud solution available. We can contact you and talk about it if you need more details. So yes, that's no problem. So 74% of the people have already voted. I think we can close it now, because there are no more votes coming in as far as I can see. Okay, you see, if I have a number of Gravity users already visiting us today, that's good. A lot of people have another system. IBM RTC is as we know, not that many people, at least the ones I have met, that are using RTC. We have some customers that are using it, but not here today. And like we said earlier today, Jira is a very popular product, to be honest. Okay, are there any other questions, Wim, at the moment? I understand there are no questions so far. I think we should switch over to Wim in 2 minutes, as far as I can see, for the next presentation. Let's close the poll and switch over to Wim for his presentation on WebSmart.